proberen van te changeren. Ze moet niet treren. Ze kan er kiezen in ons sogerij. De Casper Kroos. Doe dat. Toen ik nog kleintjes in mijn wiegje lag, was ik de lieveling van gans de straat. Ze brachten mij soms een bezoek en ze noemden mij hun lieve chouchou. Ja, alle meisjes vonden mij zo lief. Ze vonden mij hun kleine hartendief. No, this is worse.
Maar wat moet er veranderd worden?
Ik weet het niet, Vasil moet het weten.
Can you come and listen? I have the feeling it's a little bit worse now. So,
I will speak, it takes 1 second or like before you hear it, right? But hier is één championneke, tralalala. Maar dat ze dat nog eens moesten doen, godverdik, ik zou mijn beste doen. Dat een tijd nog maar eens kwam, of de tijd er niet begost. Dover zeg ik er na gewis, groeit en dat dat van mijn voeten is. Dover zeg ik in mijn eigen ras, kwaad dat ik nog een snotnijs was.
yes.
Oh ja, ja. Eens was mama met pa op reis gegaan en ik moest bij de buurvrouw slapen gaan. Ze legde mij in een zacht bed. Ik zag haar losmaken haren corset.
Als het echt naar buiten dat gaan is allemaal.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Ik heb geen idee of het aanstaat of niet. Ja?
Zo, één championneke, tralalala. Die laptop heeft geen voeding.
Ik denk dat de voeding hier is. Ik ga steken wat er staat op het uitdoen.
I will be the first speaker.
Very nice of you. What will you be speaking about?
Front-end frameworks.
Front-end frameworks?
Yeah.
Like
React,
you...
Svelte.
Okay, cool. I hope you will enjoy it very much.
Thank you.
You'll have a microphone in a moment. The streaming stuff is basically up, but we're just making sure that the sound is
Okay.
as well as it can.
Okay. Should I start preparing the slides?
Yeah, you probably have them on there.
Okay.
And
Or you can use your own laptop or...
I can use that one. I think I like to use the presenter. It's just that my slide is a website, so I think I should just open it from the
Yeah,
sure.
try to
Do as you
now.
please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shall I hand it to you? Here you go. Die was hier ook al, hè? Ja.
Niet te veel chaos weer veroorzaken, we hebben nog 14 minuten.
Exact. Ja. Zo ziet het er nog niet uit. Hè.
Maar wat?
Ja, dat is morgens. Dat is al
Ja.
zoiets als de zonnigmorgensessie.
Ja, dat is ook van ons. Dat is van u. Ja,
Dat
deze
is degene die eraan... Ah ja. Ja.
dat is van u. En dat is ook van u. Nee. Dat is
van een X230
ja,
of zo.
ja. Heb je die andere room al gecheckt?
Die waren doenbaar, maar niet perfect. Dat wordt een soort gelegd.
Dus daar was geen probleem. Daar. Het was gewoon te luid.
Ja, meer te luid dan flipping.
Okay, I think I'm ready. I'll just wait for the time being.
I'm curious about how you use the how this works. Right?
Eén championneke, tralala.
Yeah, so we did the audio feature in the room, but we can also just plug the microphones directly into here and mix.
You basically digitize
No.
the audio signal and then ship.
No, sorry.
And so
I don't know.
for
Eén championneke, tralalala.
what to do is put the receiver
Oh,
for
the last
Twee.
one is better.
Sorry?
Oh, the last one is better than this one.
I think the last settings are a little bit better actually. Gerry, sorry, please listen. Eén championneke, tralalala. Twee championnekes, tra... Sorry? Ja, la 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 la. Drie championnekes, tralalala. Okay.
just higher
Higher?
the volume.
Higher volume.
A little
Yeah,
bit
it's too
higher
quiet.
volume, please. Yes.
Do you even have how you broke down this?
330.
Championneke, tralalala. Twee championnekes, tralalala. Drie championnekes, tralalala. Vier championnekes, tralalala. Vijf championnekes. Higher still? Yes. A little bit higher. Zeven championnekes, tralalala. Acht championnekes,
It's
tralalala.
still clipping, but fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well,
check. Okay, that's probably too loud. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's get started then. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Today we'll be talking about open source front-end frameworks. There are some non-open source ones, but most of them fortunately do. First of all, a bit about myself. My name is Henry. I work in a company called Henge in Japan as a front-end engineer. Little bit fun fact about me, I like ergonomic keyboards, split keyboards, and I use NeoVim. Okay, let's get started. A bit of a disclaimer, since we're comparing about frameworks, there will be some opinions, but the opinions are my own and not of my employers. Okay, let's get started then. Open source front-end frameworks, like, there are too many choices for us. There are Angular that came first, we have React, Vue, Svelte, Solid, Quick, Astro. There are way too many of them, and this causes analysis paralysis, like how do we know which one to use for our next projects? Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, I've used like these three frameworks in my current company in different projects. I've used Vue for a bit over 4 years. I used Svelte for 1 year, and I was actually the one who architected this project, so I was the one who chose Svelte for this project. And afterwards, I joined another project that uses React, and I've only in this team for less than a year. But I think I now have a good grasp of what is the strengths and weaknesses for each framework. So let's get to it. But before we start, I'd like to do a quick head count for the audience here. How many people have learned or used React in? Okay, quite a lot. How about Vue? Okay, not a lot. How about Svelte? Wow, one person. Okay, kind of as expected. Because everyone, like most people, knows React. Let me start from React then. First of all, who doesn't know React, right? This is the result of the State of JavaScript 2024 survey. The usage part, React is the blue one, which is like over 80% of the respondees actually used React. And second one is actually Vue, and third one is Angular, hovering at around 45%. Svelte would be down here, 23, so not too much. And this is the NPM trends. So the trends of the downloads of these packages on NPM. You can see that React is actually a bit over 5 times downloaded as much as Vue, and Svelte is down there, so that's a very big gap. And that causes a very interesting quote that says, like, no one ever got fired from using React. This is actually somewhat funny, because there was a blog post that came after that that said somebody almost got fired for using React, but that's for another time. So why is React so successful then? First of all, I need to go back in history and tell a story about the time before React. There was a very popular library called jQuery, and we write jQuery inside HTML file, which we don't really do nowadays in front end. So HTML file, you have a button, you put an ID on the button, usually is the best practice, and then you load a script called jQuery from a CDN, and you load another script block that executes the jQuery. The first line here means that when the DOM is already loaded, so when everything like the HTML is ready to be queried, you call this function. This function will try to get an element with the ID of submit, which we have declared down there. Add a click handler, make a HTTP GET request, which at the time we don't really have fetch or Axios. So this abstracts away the XML HTTP request that is very quite complex to get working right. And after we finish the GET request, we can finally use the data that is returned. So this is fine and all, but jQuery is, nowadays we call it a very imperative approach, because we need to let it know exactly step by step what we want it to do. And this is where React actually gets it very interesting, makes it very easy for us front-end engineers to build UI. So first of all, we have the import statement. We can use any of the functions that React has. And we export a component from each file. And this is not an HTML file anymore. It's called a TSX or JSX file. And then you return a template that kind of looks like HTML, but it's not actually HTML, but it feels very close to HTML, that it feels like you can actually write HTML inside JS files. And you refer to some items that you declared previously, so a click handler, a state. And this is how you define a state in React. You first call the useState function, provide it with an initial value. You provide a getter and a setter. And when you make a click handler, you can use the setter to set a new value. And this causes React to re-render this component and display the updated value, the count value there inside the button. Not only that, because JSX is basically writing templates inside JavaScript, you have access to very programmatic way to write templates. You can use like inline if. So if you have a conditional, you want to show a UI a certain way, you can use the ternary operator. You can also use like the like or operator. So in the second one here, if the nickname is false, you don't render anything. But if it's true, you render the span inside. So it's very powerful in that way because you can leverage the power of scripting in templating. Another thing that React is popular of is using the unidirectional data flow. So data only flows one way from the parent to the child. Here we have the child component. The child component just renders a simple input, and it receives the data from the parent. And when something is happening to it, when the user types something, it calls the callback that is also provided by the parent. So the parent will be the one here to be responsible for the state. We have the state here to set the data. We have the event handler, and we just pass it into the child. So in this case, like the child cannot actually say to the parent that they want to change something. The child can only call the callback that the parent gives to them. And this is how we use the data after that. Another thing that is also quite popular saying in React is that React is a library, not a framework. And this comes up in framework discussions too, because the other ones are framework, but why is React actually a library? So the reason behind this, according to the React team, is that other than templating and state management, React doesn't really provide much else. And there are a lot more to front-end engineering than just state and templating. But it also, on the other hand, provides flexibility in terms of like the supporting libraries. For example, there is a global state management other than the local one. You might have heard of Redux, MobX, the context API that is native to React. There's also routing, like there are several routing packages available like React Router, 10-stack router, data fetching, you have a lot of different options, styling, even the styling is not set in stone. You can use any styling approach that you like. Also, meta frameworks, you have like Next.js, Gatsby, Remix. So React is all about choice, being non-opinionated, and the community will then come up with libraries to support it. So all this sounds like good stuff. So why do we need to change? Let's just use React forever, right? I disagree with that, and I'll talk a bit more about it. But well, React actually, we can all agree that React revolutionized the way we write front-end code. It's not without its quirks. So first quirk, it's a library, not a framework. And this also came up in the pro section earlier, right? So why is it here again? React is very unopinionated, as I said, to the point of being incomplete. What I mean is that all this, the options that I mentioned earlier, are not provided by React. So the community becomes very fragmented, like people choose different ones that suits their needs. And I think a framework should provide a bit of success as opposed to a bit of failure, which means that it should be easy to go into the correct best practices patterns. Well, I think React is offering the opposite. Like by offering options, it actually unintentionally may lead users to use the bad practices. especially because there is no default provided, right? So you risk using the wrong tool for the job. Like some libraries are better for big projects, some are better for smaller projects. You can overcomplicate your implementation because of this. Also for beginners, it can be really hard to know what is the best practice with React. And this is something that I also experienced myself as a beginner. Like there are too many options. I'm not sure which one should I use. Fragmentation. So no two React projects are the same. Even if your company is using React, if you're not using the same supporting libraries, not all of the knowledge will be transferable. So people will still need to learn new things. Some might argue that being opinionated is a bad thing. Like people like choice, right? But I'd say having an opinion is better than not having any and just let everyone choose whatever they want. I think a default is still very necessary, but then you should also allow people to choose another thing if the default doesn't suit them. And this is where in React, Meta Frameworks came to the rescue. Meta Framework is now recommended by React over just using React to build an app. And it includes a lot of useful supporting features like data fetching, server-side rendering. We have Next.js, which is very popular. We have Remix that's recently merged with React Router. And we also have Stack Query. So these are like the new recommendations to build React apps because they come with the supporting libraries to actually make one that works well and performant. And in React, one of the interesting core functionality is that React defaults to re-rendering everything, even when you might think it doesn't need to re-render. So in React, changes in state, local state, props, or context, which is like a global state, will trigger a re-render for the component, but also for all its descendants. And this is very interesting because React doesn't have a way to tell if the descendants of a component are static or not. It cannot tell, for example, if you have like a component with a static tree and a dynamic tree to only re-render the dynamic tree. It doesn't have that information. So it defaults to actually re-render the entire component again. An example, if you have like a component that continuously loops to read the current time with the get date, like React wouldn't be able to tell that it needs to re-render every second. For example, with a set timeout. So it needs to play safe and re-render everything. And in React, some degree of extra re-renders, which is extra work, is actually tolerated for fear of doing premature optimization. And this causes React apps to, by default, be slower than the alternatives. Optimizing React performance is also a very manual process. You might have heard from, for React users, something that React called memoization. And there are two different functions for memoization, which is React memo and use memo. Sounds very similar, but used very differently. So use memo here, for example, is to memoize the result of a calculation or a function, whereas React.memo is actually to memoize the component itself. You also have something called use callback, which is to memoize the function declaration. Because React is using a render function, the function declaration will be re-declared every time the component is re-rendered unless you memoize it with the use callback function. And there are also some other hooks that are used to optimize performance. And all of this we have to do manually, and even the core team says that you don't always need to do this. Sometimes extra renders is fine. But extra renders also means you're doing extra work on your client's devices, right? So is there a better way to this? Let's invite the second contender here, Vue. Vue is, they call it a truly reactive compiler-informed virtual DOM. So it also uses virtual DOM similar to React, but it uses what is called a dependency tracking. So in this example, we have a div with with 3 children div. The first 2 is static. It doesn't have to load any dynamic data. The third one uses a state. So it needs to be renewed every time. Vue statically analyze this code and will be able to optimize not re-rendering the other 2 that are static. It can also see what operations needs to be done on elements too. Like for example, the first element there, it only need to change the class bindings. And the second one is it only need to change the ID and value state. And the third one, it only need to change the inner text. So it can actually optimize for each render, for each part that is necessary. And the third one is tree flattening. So if you have a huge static tree that doesn't have any dynamic data, you don't really need to track it. You just track which one that actually needs to be changed. And that makes it more performant than React. The file format is also a bit different, single file components, almost like writing plain HTML, CSS/JS file. So you have the script part on top, you have the import, state definition, template, which is actual real HTML instead of JSX that is sort of like HTML but not. And also the style part, which is built into the framework itself. It also uses two-way data binding, which means that you define a state here and you use it here. If you wanted to set state to an input and also read from that input, there is a convenient syntax called vmodel here. So you don't have to do it like in React where you bind to the value and also you bind a change handler to the input. And this is the third contenders file. Svelte is also using a compiler-based architecture, but the difference is that it compiles into vanilla JavaScript. So it reads your code, it knows what you want to do, and it compiles a imperative JavaScript that you don't want to write, but is actually very performant. So it is done automatically for you. It has a much improved performance because it doesn't need to use the virtual DOM. This is one of the websites that lists benchmarks for frameworks. And you can see here that React is actually pretty slow, and especially in this part. And Svelte is mostly much faster than the competition, at least among these three. Svelte also has a very enjoyable developer experience. Many people who tried it said that it is a very nice experience. They want to keep using it. It has some helpers to help you like write very simple code. Like for example, the state and the property in the image is the same. You can just use a shorthand for that. Also here, like you can easily use shorthands to conditionally apply classes. So how do they compare then? So Vue and Svelte is actually much more similar than React. So I'll make the comparison like a bit group. First of all, it's a comparison between SFC and JSX. So top left is Vue. It uses like something called directives, which looks like attributes to control flow. So if condition, you render this, else if you render that. And the second one is with Svelte. You use like a what is called like something like a handlebar syntax where you make a dedicated block just to write the conditions. And React, as mentioned earlier, you can just use JavaScript. You can use like inline conditions. And these have like different implications. React is very powerful because you can actually use JavaScript, any kind of JavaScript. It's not bound to the rules of the framework. You can even define JSX as props. So you can pass the JSX template as prop. You can define multiple components in one component, which makes it very powerful. But it also has some quirks. Because it is running inside JavaScript file, you cannot have the HTML attribute class because the React compiler, the interpreter won't be able to tell the difference between the JSX class and the JavaScript class syntax. So they have to rename the attribute to be class name. Similar with the for attribute, it will collide with the JavaScript for looping. So they need to rename it to HTML4. It's also easy to write code like this that is quite hard to read. So since also JSX text can appear anywhere, it makes it very hard to read sometimes. You read a prop definition and suddenly JSX text come in. So properly setting up linters in React goes a long way to help the code's maintainability and readability. With Vue, it's using conditions as attributes or directives. So there's a v-if, v-else if, there's a v-for for looping. It's very nice, but as your elements, as your components gets bigger and more complex, it can be hard to track, especially if your element is like 100 lines long, for example. With Svelte, it's much more verbose. You have like a dedicated blocks for conditionals, but this is actually very predictable. Control flow stands out from the template. The indentation is pretty much enforced when you use a formatter. It makes code reviews very nice because it's very easy to check the logic. The other difference is two versus one-way data binding. So one-way data binding is easier to get our head around, but it causes much more boilerplate code, as the example earlier. React needs to get value and set value to the state every time when we bind it to an input, for example. So we have the value prop here and the onChange event there. It also causes an additional re-render because we are setting a value. So React needs to render the input again, even though it just receives the input from the user. And two-way data binding solves this by actually being more concise to write. And the next part is related to the earlier statement about being opinionated and unopinionated. React is very flexible, but you have to make a lot of choice, and choosing the wrong library can actually be costly down the road. Knowledge is not easily transferable when you use different libraries, and both Vue and Svelte are more opinionated. So it's easier for beginners to start. You know what the default is, you can start using it. Some people also prefer this kind of approach. And the suggested libraries are usually, because it is default or suggested, sometimes maintained by themselves. It's likely to be well maintained for a long time, which can't be said for React. And the biggest example of being opinionated and unopinionated is about styling. In React, there are like at least 5 different ways to style your component. And with Vue and Svelte, it is part of the language itself. You just define a style block. And the next one, which is the most important one, I think, is the difference in how you define components. So in React, a component definition is a render function. It runs every time the component is rendered. So if you write a data fetch inside your component definition here, this will actually be, the console log here will actually be rerun every time the component is re-rendered. So you have to opt out of having some codes being rerun every time, for example, by using the use effect hook. And because it cannot statically parse the code, as mentioned earlier. Memoization is also a manual process, so you have to keep in mind how React works and add manual optimizations on it every time. Whereas Vue and Svelte is not defining a render function, it's defining a setup function instead. So everything that you write inside the component definition, for example like this only runs once when the component initializes, so you don't have to opt out of re-rendering. It knows when to re-render based on what state you have changed. So you don't need to write use memo, use callback. Dependency array, like you use in use effect, is also not necessary. And Vue and Svelte was similar, right? So what are the core differences? So one of them is being embeddable. Vue can be embedded in existing web apps. Like you have a legacy app and you want to add some modern functionality to it, you can use Vue, but Svelte cannot be used because it needs a build step. Svelte tooling are more integrated, which is like, for example, the meta framework is built by the core team, and state management is also part of the language itself. Svelte syntax is simpler. Vue has a lot of like similar but slightly different options like ref and reactive, watch and watch effect. This can cause a bit of confusion when learning. And Svelte comes by default with a compiler that produces very optimized code, but competitions are nowadays trying to do the similar approach, like React compiler, Vue with vapor mode. So where do each one shine then? With Svelte, I think it's the best performance and bundle size. It is even used in like POS, point of sale devices. It has like enjoyable developer experience that everyone tends to like. Code reviews are easier. It outputs vanilla JavaScript. It's easy to integrate with other libraries. Like in our company, we use like 2 third-party vanilla JavaScript libraries, and we were able to integrate it successfully with the Svelte framework. So you don't have to look for a Svelte-specific version of the library, unlike React, where you usually want to look for the React-specific one for it to work. Yeah, and as mentioned earlier, embedding is not possible. React has a much bigger community, which means that you are likely won't encounter like issues that nobody else have ever found. most likely when you encounter an issue, you will be able to find people asking about it and solutions. Tooling are more mature. It has a much bigger demand. So if looking for a job is one thing, learning React is definitely the better solution now. But for companies, hiring experienced React developer can actually be harder. Performance optimization, as mentioned earlier, is quite complex, and not all production apps gets to that scale. So even people who have used React for some time might not reach the performance optimization experience necessary in some other projects. And React has a very good docs. It has like what is called use effect. Okay, looks like I don't have much time. I'll wrap this up very shortly. Vue is the middle ground. It is continuously evolving, and it has a very good tooling. Its tooling is also being shared for other frameworks to use. So takeaways is that React has revolutionized the way we write front-end code. It's not the first one, but it's the most successful. But is it still the right default in 2025? As I explained earlier, the peers has caught up, surpassed its performance, solved the problems in different ways. And another takeaway is like try out new things, like try these new frameworks that you haven't tried. Keep an open mind. Don't bring the old mindset when you try a new one, and you might end up learning, liking it. And personal projects are a great way to experiment. And a bit about my company. My company is sponsoring my trip here so that I can share knowledge with you. We are a cloud security company in Japan. And if you're interested in on-site full-time or internship position, feel free to scan this QR code. And yeah, that's actually it from me. Thank you. And if you want to connect, feel free to scan this QR code.
Thank you, Henry. We've got time for like 1 or 2 questions. Any questions? I love Vue. I love Svelte. I organize Geek Camp Singapore, so we use Svelte for some of the reactive parts of the static website. So it's really useful. Easy to code. Cool. Easy to code because I don't
very,
really
very
code.
Easy.
Yeah, very approachable.
Can I answer? Of course. So thanks for the introduction, the overview. How do you compare the 3 frameworks for more advanced kind of setup like server-side rendering, micro frameworks?
That's a good question, because I actually didn't mention much about SSR. I'm trying to fit a lot of content here, but SSR in React is more fragmented. Like there's Next.js, there is Remix, there are several like front-end meta frameworks for React, and each has their own benefits and disadvantages. Some people doesn't really like how React is leaning very closely to Next.js and Vercel, and try to like build React as what Next.js is. Yeah, I can see some people nodding in agreement. The Svelte version of the Meta framework is actually built by the same team, and we actually use that to build a single-page application. So even though it's a Meta framework, you can use it for both SSR and single-page application. It works very well. It comes with the render as you fetch approach by default. It comes with loader functions, so it's very nice to use. Unfortunately, I don't have experience with the Vue version, Nux, but I heard Nux has some very good stuff too. But it's not maintained by the same team. Like there's a separate team that maintains Nux, separate from Vue. Although I heard that they are actually working very closely. Yeah, so I don't think they will differ very much. Yeah.
Did you play with micro frameworks?
I don't think I have. Is it something like Petit Vue or?
No, micro front ends.
Micro front end.
Yeah.
I have not. Yeah, our company's products doesn't get to that scale yet. Yeah. Although micro front end is very interesting if you have like a large scale apps that actually needs to. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone.
All right, so right after this, we've got Louis Yong, senior software developer at RPS. That's gonna bring us through using Cypress for modern JavaScript testing and into advanced testing techniques.
Hello. Hello guys, my name is Louis Young, so I'm all the way from the Penang, Malaysia, and I'm the senior software developer on the RPS group, so I'm also part of the Cypress ambassador in the group, and previously I'm also the part of the Google community group in the Georgetown, Malaysia. So today we will talk about the modern JavaScript testing with the Cypress beyond the basics. So no worry. So if you don't have any experience on a test case in the front-end framework, it's okay. It should be okay because it's very easy to learn. Okay. All right, so a little bit introduce my background. So my company is an RPS company. The company is based on the US. So we are doing something like we have the custom floating radar to protect the species from the oceans. Like example, like what you see that we have the dolphin, protect dolphin, whale, and also the turtles in the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, those on. And we're also using the new technology, something like the drone, and also like you see this one, the floating radar in the ocean to collect the animal data. So imagine that in daily we need to handle a lot of the data. So how we can make sure the data is passing correct to the clients? So yeah, so we need this. Other than using a tester, we need something help like the front-end testing framework is called Cypress. Anyone heard about Cypress before? Oh yeah, all right, good. So front-end is a static testing framework. Is similar like the Selenium, but it's different because this is more easy to use, especially you are the beginner. So let me introduce what is a Cypress. So like what I mentioned, is a testing framework is using the JavaScript to write and run and debug, and also it's an end-to-end testing tool. And also we can, other than that, we also have the component also, but today we will just more focus on the end-to-end testing tool. And also it's very easy to set up, it's no configurations, okay? So, and also we very easy to integrate the CI/CD pipeline. So like example, we can automating the test executions to the Azure, GitHub, and also the AWS too. Okay, so I will bring you all to the slightly understanding how we can install quickly. So this is make sure before you install, you need to make sure is you in the node version is 16 above, and also the npm version is 9 above. Okay, so yeah, you're just running these two commands. So after that, this is when you install. It's very easy install on your projects. So you will show something like this. So you can create your first spec, but for me, it's when you first time, I suggest you all pick the scaffold example first, because we have a list of the example for you all to understanding how to writing a test case. So after that, you just click the continue, but this one is detect on your local machine, like your laptop have what kind of the browser, but because my one just Chrome, so I just have Chrome. Okay, then after that you will see these two showing up on your Docker there. All right, so yeah, this is a list of the example for you to writing the test case for more understanding, and also the example I can show you here. So you click the to do. These have a list of the example and how you can see that running a test case is very quick. You can see just 4 seconds. Okay, and this is a list of the actions button, like we have the input, how we submit, how we click, and how we double click, and those stuff. All right. Okay, so we also have the score. So this is one of the example. So you can see over here, this is the test case dashboard. So we have the URL. So normally, because we were running on our local server, so this is the localhost URL, and we also can detect and also do the test case from the different viewport sizing. Like example, we have the responsive, or maybe we have the tablet size, and now we have different type of the phone. So like the Samsung phone, so we can based on the situations, and you can just adjust it. And also, this is our test status menu and what kind of the command log you are testing on, and this is the app preview. Okay, so before we start, we try to have some basic understanding about the Cypress stack. So we have something like the CYVC, CYType. I think it's very easy for you to understand, like the VC, the URL, typing something, and also the DBL click is like double click something, the CYN, CYPulse, get, content for those. So no worry, I will guide you all to more understanding this. Okay, so this is the example when we're writing the test case, we need to have the describe. So this is the example of the definitions of the Cypress, and this is what kind of the scenario, test case scenario. So imagine they are, because this is just an example, like now I want this test case scenario to visit this URL. This is the local URL. So it's something like this. So this is the local URL. So all right, so maybe I try to show you example here, because this is the video I try to show you on hands. Okay, give me a second. Is it clearly clear? Okay. Yeah. So example, this is we using React. Okay. So because I didn't install any fancy framework, I just using the React with the TypeScript. So this is how we the login form, like user is showing something like this. So how we writing the test case? This is the example. After we install, you see over here we have the folder is called Cypress and E2E. So it's up to you, because for me I want to organize the folders structure more. So I created one more folder, is called demo. So and then you create a file. So this is how I demo. The first test case scenario is should display the error and also incorrect credentials, because impossible the user is always log incorrect, right? So we need to have the different test case of the scenario. So the second one I demonstrate is should require the both username and also the password. So it means that example that we need to demonstrate the user they didn't insert anything in the username and also the password, but they clicks the submit button should show the error message, right? So this is one of the example. And also the test case 3, the scenario is correct, like the username and also the password is correct. So we can demonstrate of the different type of the scenario. So you can see here, get input. So type is based on this, and also we can click the submit button and should visible the invalid username and also the password. So let's see in the here. Okay. All right. Give me a second. Okay, I think the internet issue. Okay, hold on. Let me show again. Okay. Yeah, this is always has been. Okay, yeah, finally work. Okay, yeah. So you will see that, yeah, it's something like this. When you after login, they will find the login button and type and submit. And because the first test case scenario is we're showing the error message, right? So yeah, this one is correct. So the second one is what we expected is user didn't type anything. Okay, so means is correct. So and the last one is when they log in is direct log into the URL. Okay, so this is the what we expected the after log in the URL. So means this test case is correct. All right, so okay, go from here. Okay, so this is the code is more clear for you all, the more understanding. Okay, so the next one is I'm trying to show you. Okay, because this is just the video, because I previously they're telling me is I cannot use my own laptop. Okay, all right. So one more thing is. Like you seeing that we always need the best practice. So imagine you're not the only person to handle the project, right? So for sure is have a few of you, or maybe you the tester, because actually this is very easy, user friendly for the tester also. Yeah, if you don't know any code, you can just learn it. It's very easy and very fast. I will teach you under the end. So okay, so this is how we like detect based from the class name. okay, or based from the ID. Yeah, we can doing that, but it's not the best part. Okay, for us, the best practice is we can using this to like cy.get and data-cy, and this is up to you, what kind of the actions you need to do, or cy.get or data test ID, these two, because imagine in future, maybe one page we have a list of the different type of the input, so impossible we detect by the class name. Yeah, how about you share the same class name? Yeah, so you will make a test case is more messy. So always remember, we need to have the best practice for this, okay? So let's see, like just now, this is the example. Later I will show you on. Later I will show you more details also. Okay, so you can see we have. You can click this in the when you're doing the test case. We have this called element suggest selector. Like this is the bad example. Like when you click this, yeah, for sure we can enter the input. We can enter the username, but this is detected by the ID. Okay. So this is the best practice. When you click this selector, so when you click there, they will directly show you this is the data test ID for what. Okay, so always have the best practice on your code. Alright, so how we add on? We just add on like this. So under your input or your button is similar like what you are adding the class name. So yeah, it's something like that. But for me, it's based on your habit. Like your habit is maybe a data test ID. You can just put data test ID. Okay. All right. So the next one is I will demo for you is more details about my daily job, because I need to handle a lot of the different type of the species. So this is the URL is look like something like this. Where we hover, okay, we will see have the different type of the species. So let's go to the code here. So the code here, because I'm trying to hard coding the data, because I want you all to more easy to understand, and I didn't using an API. If you're using an API, return is very easy and very fast. Okay, so I'm using is the map is called Mapbox. Yeah, and also I'm using the DAG.gl to mapping the layer and those stuff. So you can see here we are using the scalar plot layer and how we getting a two tips. Yeah, so yeah, using the Next and also React. So the map style and how we differentiate. We have the different ID species and also latitude, longitude, because this is I code by myself. So scope over here is what kind of the species where we are mapping. I assign them have the different color, and also this is how we return, because I force them must log in first, then only can come to this page. So yeah, so this is the example. So in over here in our test case, I try to show two example here. Okay, the first one is the expected data, because if you have the API, just throw the API link is okay already. But for me, I just hard coded for you all to more easy to understand. Okay, then this is the expected data is similar like here, like what we return over here. Okay, and also what kind of the, because I force them need to log in first, right? So first is we need to navigate to the login page first. Then after that, you see here. This is difference with the previous already. This the example is I show you like this. I just detect by the input ID to get the input ID, and I type the username. But now I change it to more standard. So I using the data test ID. The way is similar, but just the writing way is different. Okay. Then after that, I click the submit button. Actually, the submit button can change to data test ID too, but I just do the different way for you all to understand. Then after that, we should see why go to the URL. So this our target URL. Then after that, step 5 is they should render the camera, the Mapbox cameras showing out. It means the map should visible. Okay. Then after that, this is and I try to demonstrate like something like the hover is something like this. Need to make sure hover every data is showing out. Then this is our expected tooltip and also our expected species and the latitude, longitude. Okay, so this is the first scenario. So the second scenario is I try to demonstrate is imagine that we have the wrong data. So Okay, so this is the, you can see here. Okay, the correct data suppose is the turtle, but I changed to fish. So this is how I demonstrate. So we can like, if you're using an API, we can like demonstrate, hey, example, I just have 20 data response. So maybe I would change to return one more data, like 21 data. So means that, okay, yeah, the API response is wrong already. So this is the way for us to demonstrate. Okay, so yeah, if the wrong data species, so we will show that, yeah, it's not correct. So let me show you over here. Same, we go to the spec. So, and just now the name is called observation display. So you will see here, yeah. Okay, so this is the correct one. That will demonstrate the data like this. Okay, so when they log in, something like that, yeah. So they will check all the expected species. You will see, yeah, so this is the correct one. Okay? So the not correct one, you will see over here. They have the error message, and they will show you. When you scroll here, they will show you. They will show you is the expected is fish to equal to turtle. Okay? So and over here, they will show you which row is the error part. So it's very easy for you to debug. Okay? Yeah. I think it's very easy to understand, right? Alright, so okay. So this is the example for the video. And also the next one is if you have the small team, like maybe you have a star or you have the big team, you can use this also. We call it a Cypress crowd. So you just connect the project. You can connect your existing project or your new project too. So it's something like this. You just need to create organizations and create a new one, or you have the new existing project. You just click your existing project, and yeah, then click the project access, create a project, and you need what you need to do is you need to copy your Cypress record key. So you click the quick setup. And then they will show you, they will automatically detect your framework already, because my framework is Next.js, so that they already detected Next.js. So you just click continue. They will help you install all dependency. Then when you click the view Cypress crowd, is showing something like this. Okay, this is I running on my, yeah, this is, hold on. Okay, let me back, okay. Okay, so this is I running on my the terminal, so they will be showing something like this. The what kind of the test case is success or not. So yeah, they will show you how many minutes. So this is the list of the example. Like just now we have the one test case is the wrong one, so they will show you the wrong one is over here. Okay. So this maybe for if you are a programmer, maybe you are more easy to understand. But especially, but imagine when you are the project manager or you are a tester, maybe for you is, oh, this is what is very hard for me to understand. Yeah, that's why we have the UI, something like this. So this is the UI is very easy for you to understanding. So this is some example I try to run by myself. Oops. Okay, maybe I try to demo over here. Okay, yeah. So this is the Cypress crowd. When I click the example here, you can see all the overview and also your test result. So what kind? This is the total test case you're writing. Okay, for me is my test the test scenario overall running is 4 minutes, around like 5 minutes, something like that. And also what kind of the test result, and you can click and also replay the test replay. Okay, yeah, because I think, yeah, okay, so we can preview the test, and you can easily download. If you have bug, you can download it and share to your team member. Hey, this is a bug for the junior, or maybe for the project managers, to showing them, yeah, actually this case test case is passed already, but yeah, so this is one of the way for you to prove. And yeah, so you can compare to another branch also. So yeah, and also what kind of the environment you are testing. So maybe we can just this is because I'm using Mac, so it's a Mac the environment. So you can test on the Windows environment. So yeah, have the double secure for you, and we can preview the log too, and what kind of the test codes history, like what kind of the branch and what kind of the git commit you git commit before. Okay, so this is the spec. It's quite similar like the test result and what kind of the error, those stuff. And because I just have one branch, so we can, based on different branch, and we can preview different type of the test case, okay? Whatever you write. Okay, so this is some run status for you to more understanding the status running is take over how many runs. Okay, and also the run durations. And so also the test suite size, okay? And what kind of the top failure, those stuff. Like, and also, this I think is very important because we have the slower test. So we will know that what kind of the test is the most slower. So like example, like my one is because previously is using for the API. So means that maybe our writing skill in the React have issue. So maybe we can change our skill because it's return the data is more slower. So we can, I think this is very good because we can detect it and we can slowly to find the solutions on here. So, and also what kind of the most common error and also the fragile test. Okay, this I didn't do the example. Okay, so this is the very, very basic for you to more understanding how to running the test case. All right, so, okay, so if you want more, learn about the more detail about the step, you can just scan this. This is my YouTube channel, so I will teach you it more easily how to running the connect the Cypress Cloud into your existing project. Okay. All right, so other than that, right, so like what I mentioned before, imagine you hire a tester, but she don't have any experience on the coding. So how they can very quickly to understanding how to writing the Cypress test case. So this is the way. We can just go to the Google Chrome. You can just search this Cypress Chrome Recorder. So it's all here. You just add to your Chrome. Then I try the demo to you. I think can see, right? Okay, so yeah, it's something like this. After you install, you can just pin it. So this is called Cypress Recorder. I try to click start. Okay, so I demonstrate in my Locker how to log in. So when I click login, you can see here, I just click the stop recording. They have all the lists, like, okay, the first one is I log into the URL and what kind of the data test ID, and I click what kind of the button. That's why, like what I mentioned, in front end, we need to writing the best practice of the code, like this. So it's very easy for you to use. So you just copy, an example here, I just go to login page, right? Okay, I just paste here. Then I can already run to the test case already. Oh yeah. Okay. So all right. I think it's very easy to use, right? Okay. So yeah, I know I just left over 3 minutes. So yeah. So this is my talk is end already. So thank you so much. Actually, this slide already upload to the FOSSASIA. So anything you can just ping me, whatever in the Twitter or LinkedIn. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I hope you all enjoyed it. Okay, thank you.
We've got some time for Cypress questions. Anyone got questions about Cypress?
Can I ask the first one?
Of course, of course.
So thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that you were able to kind of simulate different dimensions, right, when you do the rendering. So sometimes one of the common problems is when your data changes, your rendering layout gets messed up, right? Because you didn't do your reactive design. How does Cypress detect these kind of things?
Okay, this is a good question. But for me, is maybe you can try something is like the component testing, because I'm not sure what's going on your project. So because now this is more like the E2E testing, like just like the input, like demonstrate how the user from. This is more, how to say that, it's more easy for user friendly for the e-commerce, like I add to cart and go to something. But for me, it's maybe I suggest you can do something like the component testing. So you can maybe you can see my YouTube. I have the more advanced one is teach you how to component testing part. Yeah. So maybe you're using that when you render, so the surprise is maybe no crash. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I understand this issue because I have many, the student I teach in the university, they mentioned to me before. So yeah, I will try to feedback to the Cypress. Okay, thank you so much.
One or two more questions?
Very nice presentation. So I have one question regarding, how do you compare Selenium, Cypress, and Playwright? Like, if you have to, a project that is completely newly starting, should I go with Selenium, Cypress, or Playwright? Because, these are the three things that are currently in the market, which are, very famous for the front end or, E2E testing at a scale.
Okay, for me, this Selenium is the old testing framework. Yeah, previously I used before, I quite suggest also. But this is maybe, for me, is like you have the coding experience. So yeah, I more suggest you take time to learn it. So, but like what I mentioned, Cypress is more user-friendly for the beginner. Or you don't have any experience on the coding, like I'm showing you just now, we can just using the Chrome external to the extensions. You can just very easy to copy, and even you are the project manager, you can doing that also. Yeah, but one more thing is we need the front end to help to add on the data test ID and those stuff. Yeah, so for me, I quite suggest you using the Cypress because it's more easy to use. Yeah, okay, yeah, and also it's directly test on the browser. Okay.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I really like it. Actually, I'm the tech lead of a product in Shopify platform named Pagefly. We have more than 200,000 users. This is a page builder. So the issue is a little bit different compared to other products. You make websites, we make page builder, and the core function of it is drag and drop. All right, so here comes the issue. We made several researches on other like Selenium, Playwright, but we end up using Selenium because it supports the drag and drop native between frames, like we have iframes and with inner frame, drag and drop into it. But this one, I've made a quick research here, and it just does not support drag and drop in frames, right?
We have support something like the drag functions. Yeah, but of course we need to write something. But like what I mentioned that if you want more easy, like maybe you don't know how to, you're lazy to read the documentations, right? Like just install the Chrome extensions. You try to demonstrate the drag. I guess I'm not sure the drag is looking like how. So I imagine that like maybe the one page drag to another page. So you try to demonstrate that actually they have the code already in the Chrome extension. You just copy that. Yeah, then it's maybe very easy for you. But I'm not sure the situations on your project is how. Yeah, so as long the test framework can solve your issue. So yeah, whatever you are using the Selenium or the Cypress for me is, yeah, it's based on your situation. Yeah.
Just one more question regarding the recorder that you've shown up before. I see that the users can just click and then do some steps, and then the class name and all the steps you listed, right? But yeah. What will happen if the class name is auto-generated? Nowadays, React application normally have the class name.
Yeah. So that's why just now I mentioned that we try to have the best practice. We using the data test ID right by yourself. It's not generate from the like other frameworks, because I understand like sometimes we install another framework like maybe like the Design or like the Mill. Yeah, they always change the class name. Yeah, that's why yeah, try to avoid that. So I don't want to drag the time. So yeah, thank you so much. So anything maybe we can talk in the outside. So yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, next up we've got Norbert Preining to share with us about web accessibility, not just for web but for STEM and math formulas. Norbert's a principal software engineer at Cornell University Arxiv. Wow, I use it a lot. Yeah, so without further ado, let's give him the time.
Yeah, hello everyone, good morning. So it's archive, just if you
Archive.
want, if you want a pronunciation guide, it's archive. So it comes from the Greek letter he. Like the same, if you ever have written something in LaTeX, then the tech is not latex, but LaTeX. So, yeah, thanks for joining. I think I have to say it's the first time that I'm in a web or whatever track talking, because this is not really my speciality. It just happened that since I'm working on archive, we have legal requirement to be accessible. And while the website is easy to be accessible, we have other things I will talk about. So who knows what archive is here in this room? Oh, not so bad. So, okay, I forgot. So I talk a bit of archive and accessibility, then go about ingredients on mass rendering on the web, and a quick start. So just for a starter, if I want to go into details here, even very slight details, it would be 6 hours talk, so it will be very superficial. I try to give you a feeling about what is necessary to get everything running. So what is archive? Yeah, it's this website practically. Well, not only the website, of course. So we are publishing scientific articles. It's the oldest preprint server. It started in 1991, written originally by astrophysics professor at Cornell University. We still run on for this 40-year-old Perl code mostly. We have rewritten most parts of it, but it is ongoing. We, as of, no, not of 2003. This is as of as of this year, March, we have 2.68 million articles in our archive. So if you look at the increase, so this is the total numbers. We get every month more and more and more papers. We don't house everything. We have computer science, math, physics, a bit more, but the biggest part is computer science and mathematics. Yeah, some things just to give you an idea why archive is so important. So all the big famous papers are first published on archive. Our top paper, who has a guess what our top paper is? Now, come on. Attention is all you need, right? I mean, this is the single one paper everyone quotes, everyone cites about the whole history. So this is by far our most called up, most requested paper. We have a lot. So all the LLM research is first published. There's a reason for this, and this is taking first authorship. In the scientific publishing process, you want to show that you were the first who is doing this, and publishing in a normal traditional journal might take months to get this paper out, while here we have it much faster. So many people first upload it to archive and then on. So in LLM, OpenAI, DeepMind, all of this was published on archive. Physics, the gravitational wave got the Nobel Prize, was published on archive first. Just very recently, Gregory Perelman proved the famous Poincaré conjecture. It was only published on archive. I mentioned this already, so it's about first authorship here. So accessibility. Everyone knows what that accessibility is. So close your eyes and try to read a website. That is challenging, I can tell you. So there are W3C guidelines by law. As part of the university in the US, we are required to make our websites accessible. That is the easy part, to be honest. Making a website with just text and images, you just add tags and everything, that is quite easy. But what is our main target? The target audience are researchers, and they read then the PDF papers. Now, PDF papers are really, really bad when it comes to accessibility. I will give you so I show this out. And so we introduced, like a bit more than a year ago, actions and this kind of stuff. We will see a bit more, but that is the way how, for example, 1/3 would be written in MassML. And why this is good? Because the screen reader has access to these single steps and you can actually manually step through formulas. I didn't show this in the video. There's also examples how you can step through a formula and read parts out. Next, I want to do a quick start on MassML because I mean there's a lot of technology behind. I cannot talk talk about everything, but I thought very simple examples on how get you started on MassML. I mean, you want to, for example, display a formula in your application. There are a few ways. So first, how do you generate MassML? I mean, you can write it by hand. It's okay-ish for small formulas, but it gets rather complicated for large formulas. So most people use MassML generator. So there's one online that is quite a code that targets MassML core. And then, so there's LaTeX ML is a program that converts LaTeX documents into HTML documents. This is what we use on Archive to generate our HTML source. And it contains a program that is called LaTeX ML Mass. You just feed in a mathematical expression in TeX language and get out the respective MassML. So for example, x is y to the y square, then you get just, you can, whether this is block or not, I don't go into details now, you can configure it here with LaTeX ML, but you get more x is y to the square. You hear sub means that this is a exponent. And you can feed in much more complicated equation without any problems. So this is an easy way to get mass equations from TeX. Okay, you might say, okay, that doesn't help me because I don't know TeX, but probably everyone who deals with mathematics regularly will be able to write formulas in TeX because that's the standard language for a mathematician, physics, computer science to communicate mathematics. Okay, 10:50. A bit about, of course, this font setup. This is not trivial, of course, because the fonts are not built in. You have to make them ready. So there is an example setup for CSS is Notosans. So for example, Notosans is a common font, often used because it covers a lot of languages. There is now since, I don't know, a year or something is Notosans Mass. So they published the OpenType Mass fonts for Notosans. And you just, well, basically, well, for HTML mass paragraph and mass text, so text within mass, please use Notosans. And for everything that is somehow mass related, use Notosans Mass. And then you get a formula, for example, like this. I will show you then a few more examples. There is, so font setup, what I normally do is I use on my computer if I develop, because I have all the fonts installed, I just tell the CSS code to use the local fonts. That works nicely. You can put in here on your own server, if you just serve the HTML, you can just provide the WAV file or the WAV2 file or whatever you need here with URL, and then the client can actually display the mathematics correctly. Yeah, let me go into a few examples. So this again is a very simple formula. Well, everyone knows what this is, I hope. So it uses, the code for here is just the formula, well, it's a bit lengthy, right? I mean, it's getting very quickly a bit complicated. And the CSS support is just, I used here Cambria. I have Cambria locally installed. I just say, well, use Cambria for like Cambria Mass, and the Cambria, like italic bold, all the fonts are set up, and just tell here for HTML and Mass, like you've seen before. You can, nowadays with these fonts, you can of course also activate like all kind of font styles, like old style numbers if you want, calligraphy fonts. So mathematic fonts are quite, let's say, diverse in what kind of symbols they provide, so you have to really check which one works for you. Here's a bit, so the formula we have seen before, this is again with Cambria Mass. Yeah, if you want to see the source code here, then you already know that you don't probably want to write this by hand. I mean, it's not so, well, can be done, but I'm quite sure there will be errors if you ever have. So that is an extract from a page I will show you later. So there are a lot of variances. What can mass on the web can type. So this is again Cambria Mass using. So you have here formulas, you have here, for example, old style numbers, which are common in normal, well, like in novels or books for typesetting numbers that are not in mathematics. In mathematics, we use upright numbers normally. You see that, for example, that is a nice example. You see inline limits. So the limits of the integral here are compacted because the text is inline, and here if you are in display mode they are a bit above and below, so there is all of this logic is built into the mass fonts already. This is one which was, this is an example with Noto fonts, right, because Cambria is, well, officially it's commercial, you have to have so you can use it on your computer if you have Windows installed, but you cannot distribute it and you cannot share it over the net, of course. Yeah, so you have to use other. Yeah, it's complicated. I know. So Noto. So here is an equation with Noto, Noto sounds and Noto sound ones mass. So I have put here in the source codes. I have put everything into just one file. Just the font face definitions and the CSS, and that's it. So there is no JavaScript involved, don't worry, if you're scared of JavaScript like me. Everything is only CSS and OpenType mass stuff. And yeah, so there is a website from Fred Wang. I'm also working there, where you can actually try out. We try to collect all OpenType math fonts that are currently available. There are a few of the fonts that are on my backlog to support. So here you can just say which font do you want to show on your page, like, I don't know, New Computer Modern or Firamas Sans font. So that you can test out, for example, your equations, whether you like the font, whether, for example, the mass font fits with your styling of your website. So that is a quite nice page. And then let me go back here. So that were a few examples. And yeah, just a bit of summary. So why is this important? Because we want to make research accessible for researchers that have limitations on their sight, so it's not only blind, there are people who are highly sensitive to lights, there are color incompatibilities, so there are a lot of ways where people can get problems reading easily. What you need is MassML, especially MassML Core, the emerging standard, because it is closely developed with browser developers, so there is a high compatibility. OpenType mass fonts, there are a lot of these fonts are now freely available, like even open source, so you can download the FontForge file and develop yourself. This is the link I mentioned before, where you can test out the fonts. Just to give you a feedback we got at Archive after putting up the HTML version, it was an overwhelming positive feedback from both the community of blind or sight-impaired researchers and normal users, because HTML has more properties, like you can read a paper on your mobile and it is properly reflown, something that PDF also doesn't do. So there are many things. We had last year a forum, Accessibility to 2024 forum at Archive. There are a lot of recordings of discussion. There was the head developer of the NVDK screen reader. There were blind scientists. So there are a lot of presentations on this topic and discussions, and they are available on YouTube. Yeah, a few acknowledgements. So Dejan Kinev, he works with me at Archive, but he's one member of the MassML core specification team, so I always discuss a lot with him and it helped me a lot. Fred Wang, I mentioned the page where all the fonts are. He's also worked on the Chrome implementation side and on MassFont side, so I had also a lot of him. And then of course all the many science who helped us in Archive to get it this way. If you want to contact me, so you can contact me at norbert@archive.org. This is LinkedIn if you just want. Obligatory disclaimer, work on this was sponsored by the National Science Foundation and the NASA grant. And yeah, I think that's all. I have also a list of stuff one can read up. If you are interested in details, in more technical stuff, just to pick a few, so the MassML core spec is here. It's good, it's definitely reasonable. This is a very good document about how to make OpenType mass fonts if you're interested in building your own. Cambria, the document Microsoft created, is very nice because it was the first and very well documented. The OpenType mass spec. There is a very good paper, OpenType mass illuminated from Ulrich Wied on, well, what OpenType parameters mean. Well, this is for tech freaks. Appendix G is part of the tech book explaining how the layout does. Then this is about recent state of OpenType mass and which fonts are available. Well, this is the website I mentioned already. And this is this old book. It's a very nice book. It's freely available, where you see this mass formula, how it's laid out. It's super old, but it goes into all the details. So yeah, there are a lot of details. Okay, that's from my side. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, that was amazing. Already have a question to ask? I have so many questions to ask as well.
I'm curious, how are you or are publishers adopting this? Who's doing a good job?
Most publishers, of course, have the same legal requirements. They have their own, so we are in contact with a lot of publishers also and cooperate with them. They mostly have their own workflows, completely independent. They go through XML. All the input is probably converted to XML. So depends on the publisher. So they have their own workflows. For the HTML version, I'm not sure. I guess they haven't done anything, or they are now starting to do the mass typesetting also in MassML.
And I understand JAX XML is a fairly popular standard they're moving towards. Are these compatible?
Well, not completely compatible. Yeah. This is one of the things you could talk about 1 hour, right? Good question, but too much time for that.
Yet another standard. Yet another standard. Any more questions? All right.
Yeah, I just want to know how good is the conversion from latex to HTML is, and
good, and very good question.
How I could make it easier to make it.
So we have 2.6 million articles, and I would say I don't nail me to the cross if the number is wrong, but the conversion rate is very high at the moment. We have all new papers are automatically converted to LaTeX ML. We have a big feedback button, so if something looks strange, people report back. We had over thousands of GitHub issues already open, but we do this again and again. The problem is reconverting like millions of documents takes months. Well, we could need more servers, but we have to pay for them. But it is, at the moment, I would say, as long as the user uses even super complicated mass, but doesn't do any super magic hacking in low-level tech, it is supported. And there's one more problem there. You have to support all the packages, and so all the major packages, everything that is normally used in LaTeX is already supported, but there's a long, long tail of small packages that are used only once in 10,000 times, and, well, support for them has to wait a bit.
Thank you. So, in my understanding, you are using the LaTeX to convert something like a kind of equation to the HTML, right? XML, sorry.
No, we don't use LaTeX.
Oh.
We use LaTeX NL, which is a separate project that parses LaTeX code, generates an abstract syntax tree, and generates MassML from that.
Yes, I am just curious. What if we have the equations from something like Microsoft Word that we generate the equation? Can we convert it to the XML directly, not using LaTeX?
Yes, so if you use the Microsoft editor, I think nowadays all of them have export to MassML Direct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that is what they implemented in Microsoft Office 2007. So whether they support exactly MassML Core, I don't know. Good question, interesting question. I will look into this, how good the equation editor works with MassML Core. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Pretty cool session.
Are a lot of people uploading Microsoft Word documents to archive?
No, we don't accept them. we have some exceptions where they can upload a PDF version of it in exceptional cases. But exactly that is the reason, right? If we only have the PDF version, we cannot make it accessible. If we have the tech code, we can make it accessible.
You seem very opinionated on open fonts. What's your favorite math font?
My favorite? I have to say Cambria is very beautiful. This was designed by a very famous and very good designer. It's very well made. Let's put it this, what I used, for example, my master, my PhD thesis is the Lucida fonts, because I like them also, and there is Lucida OpenType Mass, so because it fits to the text font. I wouldn't use it on the web, because I prefer sans serif fonts on the web. I would probably use Fira Sans if I have to set it up.
Any more questions? We've got like 15 minutes. If not, I have another question. You were saying not all fonts, not all math fonts are supported with MathML currently?
No, they are compatible, but the coverage of symbols. So OpenType Mass specifies like, I don't know, 7,000, 10,000 symbols, and lots of different alphabets, like Greek, Cyrillic, in lower, in uppercase, in bold, and so it is up to the font designer which of the symbols they implement. And I haven't shown it because I thought it's too much detail. So we have tables about how many characters are supported by which font, because this is also important for us on Archive, because we have a huge spectrum of published papers, and so the probability that very rare symbols are also used. So we try to use the font that supports the most. But it really depends on what if you make a website for junior high school students learning maths, then every math font will have the necessary symbols. So yeah. So it's not about the standard, it's not about being compatible, it's about how many symbols are included in the actual font.
All right, thank you so much, Norbert. We've got some time, so we could do a water break. Yeah, so let's give another hand for our speaker, then let's go for a water break.
All right. Oh, there is amplification. Okay. My bad. So, in a minute now. I think I'll be here because I'll be making some demos. Yeah. Think so. Is it maybe generally better to stand this way?
Oh no, you can just adjust the camera wherever you need, wherever you want to stand.
I will be on the side, I think. Thank you.
How do I pronounce your surname? Akdemir? How do I pronounce your surname? Akdemir. All right, we've got Sarper Akdemir, a contributor to LibreOffice. Today he'll be sharing about WebAssembly on LibreOffice on the web, so we can finally edit open documents on the open web. Take it away.
Thank you for the introduction. As it was just announced, I'm Sarper Akdemir, and today's topic is LibreOffice in the web. As a WebAssembly web widget with JavaScript automation that you can extend. Yeah, I will talk about how we got that going. I'm not really a web developer. What I do is LibreOffice. I've been doing that for 5 years now, and the company I work for, we basically focus on LibreOffice, everything. But hopefully, even if I'm an alien to the web, you will get something out of this, because this is something we did for web developers in mind. So, what is LibreOffice? If you just have a question about that, it is this old and gold open source, free and open source office suite that does everything and gets stuff done. It's an old code base, but it has all the bells and whistles. Nowadays we have this term, LibreOffice technology, because the approach we took with the LibreOffice code base is actually way more than just an open source office suite. It is actually a tool pack, a powerhouse, if you will, that you can use for generating documents, templating them, getting some PDFs generated, editing stuff of any kind of documents. And the approach of the LibreOffice code base is basically everything implemented once and used everywhere. Portability has been in the starting point of the basically LibreOffice fork back in 2010. So we use the same code base to build to every platform. It's on desktop, it's on mobile, it's on cloud, and now it's literally in your browser with WebAssembly. It is not like the proprietary and some open core office suites that I know of, which they basically have their own implementations for every platform. Then you have this ugly thing where you have different bugs, different feature sets for every platform you ship to, which makes no sense. Then there's a huge feature parity problem. We avoid it by basically shipping LibreOffice everywhere. So what is LibreOffice WebAssembly, as we call it? So we put LibreOffice on the browser. It is fully client-sided. So what happens is you just ship a WebAssembly binary. It doesn't need no server after that once it's shipped. No cloud services. It doesn't need to maintain any kind of connection. LibreOffice has a huge code base. It is 9 million lines of code or something like that. And it uses GNU Auto Tools and GNU Make from the back good old days. So the idea was we didn't want to avoid that at all. We wanted to we didn't want to use any kind of different build platform. We wanted to integrate everything in the GNU Auto Tools and GNU Make as well. Then the decision was made to use Emscripten. It seemed like the right choice to go with. Emscripten is basically a tool chain that provides all everything you need to build a C, C++ code-based project into WebAssembly. Also, it gives you this partly not the whole POSIX environment, but a part of the POSIX environment, so that you can actually operate in the web browser. Because the web browser has some limits, you can't get all the things that you have in an open on an operating system. And LibreOffice has this GUI abstraction thing. For UI, Qt makes sense. Because it already had this WebAssembly prototype going on, so we went with that. Making it work was a whole thing. But at that point in time, just LibreOffice WebAssembly is this thing. It's in the web. You can use it. It's yes, user interactions going and everything. Let's talk a bit about the timeline. In around 2020, everything started with an ANNet funding, some seed. To get things going, so thanks to ANNet for that. Then Allotropia was also having less of, investing less of time into this. Around a year later, we got the first LibreOffice WebAssembly pixel on the screen. Then yada, we got everything got done throughout the point. Here and there, we got the calc support. At first, it was only writer. Then the calc, which is a spreadsheet editor, got the support. Then we got to have this PDF conversion working, so you don't need to use the UI at all. And then last spring, we binded the LibreOffice's API, which is UNO API, to JavaScript, so that finally you have something not only you can interact with, but also an actual web widget at that point, so that you just use JavaScript to do whatever you want to do with it. It's a part of the front end at that point. And then this November we released Zeta.js, which is a wrapper, because I will talk about this in a second, but yeah, let's move on for now. Let's talk about how all these blocks come together. We got LibreOffice WebAssembly in the browser, and then expose the API. But the problem with the expose API is it's actually just a C++ API bound to JavaScript. So what you have is like you need to actually still manage memory in JavaScript yourself. You need to delete everything you created through the API. It's a problem, and I don't think anyone that uses JavaScript is used to that. So what we went was that we created this Zeta.js wrapper, which basically abstracts everything away, and then you don't need to do that way. Let's do a demo real quick. All right. Oops. This is what happens with demos, I guess. Let me just go to. All right, nothing's here. There we go. We need to wait for a second there. Let me just move away. I'll come back to that in a second. Let's peel back the onion. LibreOffice WebAssembly in the middle. I'd like to show you an example about how does it actually change in the code if you use Zeta.js versus the UNO bindings bound to JavaScript by itself. If you see with this highlighted areas, it actually has a sequence of property. We try to define this sequence of property values, and it's this huge string. It's very ugly, and at the end of the code, we need to actually delete the thing. But if you actually use Zeta.js, it's actually just an array of values, but you need to represent it in the LibreOffice way, but it's really cumbersome like this. If you use Zeta.js instead, it's basically abstracts everything into just an empty array, so it handles everything type related for you. It's good to go. Let's see how's the demo looking now. Okay. So in this example, it's basically LibreOffice that you see in this canvas, and you have some values here. You can insert and you can add addresses. The whole UI is Vue, and this whole rendering area is LibreOffice. It's basically something you can customize and do anything with. Yeah. Let's move on. Let me just show you, let's insert an address. Then what you can do is you can generate a PDF, and it's just like that. You have it, it's a PDF that's just templated, and with the address that you picked, you can make it integrated with anything basically. So why use Zeta.js? Data privacy is extremely important. If you are into data sovereignty at all, if you already talked about this, data never leaves anything. And then I'd say convenience takes the second place. From a user perspective, I hate to admit this, but yeah, okay, using the web as a platform is easier for everyone. In the end, they don't need to install or configure anything, and they can just go to some URL and they use it. It is accessible with any device. You can put on Google, like it can be on a Google that shows a screen. A browser is everywhere basically at this point. And Zeta.js also provides this developer-centered view, so it makes the Office Suite trivially embeddable. I just showed you, it makes this UNO API bound to JavaScript kind of go away. And how it actually does the trivially embeddable thing is like we also have a CDN, and you can just install an NPM package. And then, yeah, if you're okay with using our CDN, go for it. And otherwise, you can also, you're not dependent on it. Everything's open source, free and open source. Go build it yourself. We have tutorials on that as well. So extensibility is in the core of everything. UNO API is crazy extensible. Basically, all of these Writer, Impress, and Calc are components. And you can, if you want, do a whole different and new component that handles its own rendering, GUI, any kind of custom workflow. You can handle callbacks from both LibreOffice and JavaScript. Yeah, go from WASM to JavaScript any way you want, and extend, change it, have custom rendering, go for it, kind of deal. And what's really important is scalability and speed. Compared to other approaches, like having LibreOffice in the backend and doing the compute and serving you a rendered result, this happens on the client side. So you can serve it anywhere. As long as you can serve it, it is scalable. It doesn't need to maintain the connection. So yeah, you just got it. Another demo, but I will pass this. Who is this really for? Let's talk about that. I say like lots of line of business applications has this approach of having custom workflows for their documents generation and anything that goes around that, usually archaic software that they use once and automate it in some any kind of Office suite that they were using at the time. You can port anything like that into Zeta.js, and now it's in the web. It works. Yeah, and you can just use it everywhere. And how did we get this into the web? It was a problem. Maturity of the problem, maturity of the platform was a problem for us because WASM was ready but not ready for LibreOffice. We did break lots of stuff, lots of tool chains, so there was lots of things to fix along the way. Debugging was working, then not working, and finally it's working, but not really at times. So there's a whole memory constraint that doing source level debugging on the web, and just debug info is when the debug info goes like 4 gigs, you have a problem at the end. You need to make sure that all of that can be loaded into a browser page. Yeah, if you need to see the challenges, just look through them. I will just go through fast. maybe some recent news to talk about. Since our last presentation, we had this font aliasing issues from basically the first implementation of LibreOffice WebAssembly. They are gone now. We support browser scaling and some high DPI. Impress support is around the corner. It's almost done. Have a look at it. And in the future, what we are looking into is TypeScript, having a better UI toolkit or different UI toolkit, so that everything kind of integrates well with LibreOffice. Of course, better interaction and better responsiveness is important. We need some mobile touch support at some point. That's on the agenda as well. So I'd like to encourage all of you, if you're into web or LibreOffice or anything Office related, give it a spin. Visit zoffice.net. We have some live demos that you can just play around with. Install it with NPM. I don't know much about it, but go for it. And integrate it into your front-end framework. Check our examples. We have some Vue.js examples. We have some raw HTML and just loading the wasm binary JavaScript kind of examples as well. Use it as a starting point and do your thing. Let us know, create some issues, tell us what you hate, tell us what you love. We are looking forward to it. Thank you for listening to me. If you want to talk about it, if you want to see something, see a demo, see what it is actually capable of, meet me in the hallway. I will be around, and I will be hanging around the Google Summer of Code booth around 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. See you around. Thank you.
Love WebAssembly. Oh, you've already got a question.
For questions? Oh, yeah,
That's nice. Hi. Just tried it, and it seems, ZetaOffice.net/demos, and it's failing for me, but maybe it's working for you. Is it just?
So, is the problem like it didn't appear at all? Like, is it stuck at loading?
It's stuck at loading.
Okay, I actually had it this morning, but the problem is all of my colleagues who have access to our CDN is sleeping right now in Europe. The problem is, I think maybe I pinged it a bit too much, and CDN blocked the actual wasm binary from deploying to this IP address. Something's flagged around it. If you can use a VPN for a bit, I have one. If you want to try it here, come along. Any other questions?
Is there like a drop-in, like docs.google.com? Is there a docs.zetaoffice.com that people can use?
So right now there is no documentation in form of a website, but you can just go to the GitHub repo, and there's readmes about getting started, getting the examples going, building everything from get-go, playing around, and some documentation of how to actually make sense of both LibreOffice API and Zeta.js representations of it.
Any plans for smaller custom builds on the CDN?
So the plan is always to get it smaller. That's something that we are working on. The thing is, with getting smaller builds, LibreOffice is actually almost the same code base for each component. So like Writer, Impress, and Calc, they are not really separate code bases. So they use everything. We do try to strip out whatever we can. At first, I believe packed version of it was like 150 megs. Unpacked 500 megs or something. We need to do some static linking as some hacks to get it working on WASM. But now we got it down to 35 megs, so it's cacheable in the browser. So if you basically get it to the user once, it just goes. Thank you.
What are other demos? The number 2 and 3, I didn't remember.
Sorry, would you like to see some other demos? Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what happened was like demos went away. Like for instance, for this is a ping monitor demo. The canvas here is just LibreOffice. And the pinging actually happens just by JavaScript. This is a chart in LibreOffice. It just plots it, but it doesn't really look like LibreOffice. That's the catch of it. Maybe also, let me just retrieve. Yeah, this is a ping monitor. Any questions about it? If you have something in mind. Yeah, okay. Then this is another ping tool. Yeah, we are not coming up with very nice examples. Hopefully you can help us in that front. We have other nice examples, but they are not in these demo links, sadly. Yeah, you can just select somewhere to ping. Let me just, it's hard to type with one hand. Whoop. And yeah, it's basically going to plot that. If I can click. Is it stuck somehow? Yeah, demo gods, help me out. Maybe browser is blocking something. Maybe it should be an URL. Okay, I will drop this. Let's go. Okay, I need to put the protocol in, apparently. Yeah, so then you get the ping and you get it plotted there. Yeah, this kind of thing. And this is basically the first port of LibreOffice. It's everything. And then you basically, like all of these examples you're seeing are the same binary, and it's just customized using ONO API and this JS representation. Yeah.
You mentioned ripping out stuff from the LibreOffice codebase to get WebAssembly as small as possible. What were you able to remove? Because codebases can be spaghetti, you know.
Yeah, what we were removing, like fonts, some fonts for sure, because fonts do take lots of space. And then when you are just using the code base for writer, at least like that was what we were going for. There are lots of like the slideshow engine you don't really need. The writer never shows anything slideshow related. For instance, like slideshow also has its own rendering engine with it, so it's a big thing.
A lot of space,
yeah.
A lot of storage.
And you get rid of base, LibreOffice base. That's the database application. Yeah, that's what I remember, but yeah, there are lots of small bits here and there, whatever you can remove. Yeah, we were just coming like in the build system, just getting rid of them. Yeah, one by one, seeing if it works. Then, if it works without, yeah, keeping it out of the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Let's give another round of applause for Cypher.
Thank you for the conference. Bye bye.
All right. Next up, we've got Sahil from Mercari, Japan, doing peer-to-peer stuff. He'll be sharing about web accessibility through internationalization and localization. Oh, let's give you some time to set up.
Hello.
Okay, nice. So, should we start? Yeah, all right. All right, let's welcome Sahil.
Hello everyone. It's a small room, so I'm probably going to sit and talk. So before we start, good morning to everyone. Super excited to be here, and it's really, really great to see everyone. So first off, a huge shout out to the amazing organizers, the FOSSASIA team. Great effort in putting together such an amazing event, and to the sponsors, and of course to all of you for making this event happen. So today, let's dive in. So we are going to talk something super important today when it okay. Yeah, keyboard shortcuts always work. Okay, so yeah, today we're going to talk something super important when it comes to going global, web accessibility, internationalization, and localization. So chances are, like, many of you have previously worked with these in some of your projects or side hobbies. But if you have not, no worries, we're going to take it super slow today. We're going to start off with some basics as well. So we're going to also look at how these pieces fit together and why they are a key to creating a truly inclusive experiences for users everywhere. So one of my very first introduction to accessibility was through this statement shared by Cindy Lee during her keynote on inclusive design. So we are all just temporarily abled. So this is a very simple statement, but a very powerful one, which highlights that at some points in our lives, we will need our surroundings to be a little more accommodating than they usually are. So now, to help all of you relate to what I mean here, so how many of you can easily read this? It's a small room, so I was expecting a bigger room and people may be squinting at the back to properly read this, but yeah, okay. How about this one? So if we change the language entirely, so this is Japanese. How about now? Probably no one here can read this. Okay, so these are all the same statements, but either written with a poor color, poor font color, or translated into a different language. So the point I'm trying to make here is that many of us would consider ourselves in this room to be fully abled with no form of disability. So you may perhaps have the same level of challenge in understanding or reading this kind of statements written on the screen. So accessibility, when we talk about accessibility, it is not just designing for a specific subgroup of people, such as with permanent visual or motor challenges, such as someone who cannot see or cannot hear at all. It's about designing for everyone, including our future selves. So this statement serves as a powerful reminder that our needs can change over time. Whether it's due to injury, it could be a temporary injury or a permanent injury, it could be any form of illness, or a natural aging, or even situational contexts, like, being in a noisy environment or being in outside in the sun where it's hard for you to see your phone, for example. So designing with accessibility in mind ensures that we are prepared for those kind of moments in our own lives. So we have to consciously build products and experiences that empower every individual, ensuring inclusivity for all. So quickly jumping into a little bit about me. So my name is Sahil and I work as a front-end tech lead for Mercari in Tokyo, Japan. For those of you don't know, Mercari is a peer-to-peer or a C2C e-commerce service within Japan. So I am originally from India, now based in Japan for over 5 years now. So if you use Twitter or X, you can find me using @505 Sahil. Okay, so jumping into basics a little bit. So I'm sure many of you here have heard various definitions of what accessibility means. I personally really love and connect with this definition, which is understanding different capabilities of your potential customers or your potential users and designing within those constraints. So in short, it helps to convey that knowing your users or customers is the key in general, and you want to understand their capabilities, what they are capable of, what are their skill sets, and what are their constraints, and when designing or creating for them, work towards the technology from there and not the other way around. So so what are some of the key principles when we talk about accessibility? So W3C is Web Accessibility Initiative, also known as WAI, has helped to break down these into 4 key and simple principles. So for content and applications to be truly accessible, they should be number 1, perceivable. So perceivable here means that information shouldn't be invisible to the users. It should be accessible through 1 or more senses. Number 2 is operable. So users should be able to interact with the interface, whether it's clicking links, filling out forms, or navigating menus. Number 3 is understandable. Contents and interactions should be clear and easy to grasp. And finally, we have robust. So everything should work consistently even when using assistive technologies such as screen readers or voiceovers on your mobile application. So when discussing disability, we often limit our thinking to something that is, permanent in nature, such as, inability to speak or see. I like to call it also as a medical model of disability. While this perspective is not entirely wrong, it can be limiting, so causing us to overlook a huge number of people. So what often gets left out is what I call as social model of disability, so which shifts our focus to society and the environment. So in this view, disability isn't just about a person's condition, it's about how well the world around them meets their needs. And this is where technology, especially digital tools like web applications or mobile applications, play a huge role, and it can help to break down barriers, or it can entirely create new ones for you if we are not careful about the accessibility part. So the choices we make as developers, product managers, designers, or even creators directly impact how inclusive and accessible our world becomes. So let's try to relate to this a little bit more. So for someone who cannot touch, we often tend to only think of someone who might have only one arm, for instance, which I described earlier as a medical model of disability. So this is what I am kind of classifying here as a permanent disability. What we often knowingly and unknowingly neglect is any form of temporary disability, such as someone recovering from an arm injury, for instance, or a situational disability such as a new parent. And similar concept can be extended to someone who cannot see, for instance. We often tend to think of someone who is blind. What often gets left out is someone who might have an eye infection or a cataract, for instance, or someone just stepping out in the sun and cannot properly see colors not having proper contrast on your mobile application. Similarly, for someone who cannot speak, we often tend to think of someone who is non-verbal entirely. We often neglect someone with laryngitis or a throat infection, or someone who has a heavy accent or speaks a foreign language, for example. Similar concept can be extended to someone who cannot hear. we tend to ignore someone recovering from an ear infection or someone in a very noisy environment, such as a bartender. All right, let's move on to internationalization. So to define internationalization, it's about designing your application's architecture so it can be easily adapted to different cultures, regions, or languages. So since we are focusing more on the product and the application development part today, let's explore how we can make this happen using React.js, which is one of the most widely used JavaScript frameworks out there. So let's dive into a few open source React libraries that can help us achieve the internationalization in our applications. So these tools not only will help you manage translations, but also handle various intricate details like date, numbers, and currency formatting, which can differ from region to region or country to country. So first we have is React I18 Next. This is from I18 Next itself, and this is a popular library that integrates seamlessly with your React code bases. It offers a flexible API for handling translations and language switching, making it easier for you to build applications catering to global needs. We also have a similar solution for your Next.js applications, which might requires translations to be built on the server side. And lastly, we have on the right is React INTL, which is one of my personal favorites because it doesn't just offer translation solutions, it offers various other intricacies that I was talking about earlier, date formatting, number formatting, and currency formatting on top of that. So all of these tools and libraries are open source and community driven. So if you're interested, I would recommend you to have a look at these and try to integrate in your projects. All right, talking about localization. So while internationalization is about setting up the architecture of your application, localization is where the real adaptation happens. So it's about fine-tuning your application for a specific culture, region, or a language. Ensuring not just translations, but also things like date, formats, currencies, and even design elements like icons are adapted to a specific culture or a region. So there are countless localization aspects which I don't want to cover everyone in today's session, but these are some of them I've listed here. So breaking down some of them into key aspects, we have language and content, where we have text translations, ensuring the cultural relevance so that the message resonates with the target audience. For design and user interface, we have text expansion. So in different languages, text can expand unexpectedly. So our UI should be able to handle those kind of expansions. We have bidirectionality. So most of us are only familiar with languages which are written from right to left, for example, Thai or English or Japanese, for instance. But there are languages such as Arabic, which is written from left to right. So our UI and front end should be able to handle those kind of direction changes as well. For regional standards, we have date and time formats, currencies, and measurement units. And for support, as we can imagine, we need to adapt our customer support to be able to support regional requirements and also data handling and privacy and legal laws. So now looking a little bit into text translation. So there are a bunch of ways you can maintain the translation in your services. So a common approach and an easy to use approach is a JSON key value pair where each language, so for instance, you can see on the left we have English, Japanese, and Hindi. We have some keys for these languages. So this kind of a translation format keeps things structured for your application if you are serving global customer base. But there are also amazing translation management systems out there that can be utilized for maintaining these strings. So phrase and localize are some of my favorite tools, which can cater to some large and complex code bases if you have those kind of requirements. So please look into these if you're interested. And how to make those kind of translations available in your entire code base is another kind of challenge. So there are different ways to integrate these into your React code base. So some of the libraries I shared earlier, IAT Next does that for you from ground up. But one custom approach is to use this kind of a translation context provider, which basically wraps around your application. And this basically exposes a use translate function, which can be consumed by different components within your application. And you just need to pass in the key name to get the translation for that particular key. So this is a simple example. If you have a very easy use case, I would recommend you to take this approach. And talking a little bit about date and time formats, which is another aspect of localization. So as I said earlier, date and time formats can be different across regions, and I personally find it really frustrating when I do not see dates being localized nicely in an application or a service. So for instance, to give you an example, this is how dates are generally written or interpreted in Japan. And this is how it's written and interpreted in India and in the United States. So you see how this is very different, and it can cause a lot of confusion among your customers or users. So now dates are really hard to work with. I personally find it very challenging, especially if you write JavaScript, you know the trouble. Again, like there are some various nice open source libraries and tools out there. JSINTL is one of the native API provided by browsers. You can directly use it within your React code base. And we have Luxin by Moment, which provides a lot of utilities on top of the native INTL functionalities to manage date in your application. We also have DateFNS. I have never used DateFNS personally, but it's also one of the community recommended library out there. So please check them out if you're interested. Now, another aspect that I touched upon earlier is bidirectionality. So I believe most of us have interacted with left to right based UIs generally, because we tend to interact with languages such as English or Japanese or Thai, for example, which are left to right written. So whereas some are read from right to left, Arabic is one such language. And it is quite important that our UI interface in the application can accommodate for that. So as you see here now, the layout of the application changes from if the language is written right to left. So now there are a couple of handy things or easy to take approaches that you can take in your code base. So first basic one is the HTML dir attribute, which is I think short for direction. So you can use this particular attribute to flip any of the non-direction specific content in your application. So by non-direction specific content, I mean any kind of text or any kind of grid, for example. So for any direction specific content, such as, if you want to add a margin to the left or if you want to add a margin to the right, we have some CSS utilities out there that can be utilized. So I have listed two of them here. One is by Casey Dodds, which is RTL CSS.js. It's, I believe, a runtime CSS in JS utility library. And another one is a utility-based RTL CSS, which generates CSS files, I believe, during the build time of your application. So these also can be utilized to handle some of the direction-specific bidirectionality requirements for your application. Okay, so a little bit less technical. Let's talk about Disney. So I'm not sure how many of you have watched the Inside Out movie. Has anyone watched the Inside Out movie here? Okay. Yes, so yeah, great catch. So there's a fascinating detail in the movie. So in one of the scenes, Riley, which is the character's name here, doesn't like the vegetables offered to her. So in the US version of the movie, which is, I believe, on the left-hand side, the vegetable used is broccoli, which many of the American kids tend to dislike. But in the Japanese version, which is on the right, we used green bell peppers, which is generally more disliked by children in Japan. So this is a small change, but this is a brilliant example of how localization works and how you can make your content that you put on internet or on the web feel more personal to the customers or users. So now here I have a small snippet of the code. So I have a small component called a dog component, and this is basically rendering an image of dog playing in the park. So can anyone spot what could be improved with this component in terms of localization and internationalization? Correct. Great catch. Yeah. So the alt text is kind of hard-coded in the English language. So as some of you who might know, screen readers rely on alt text to basically read what the image is telling to the users who cannot see, for instance. So for a user who cannot understand English, it will be very hard for them to understand what image is trying to convey. So this is basically a tiny aspect of what kind of internationalization and localization approaches you can take in your applications. Sorry. Okay, so let's try to look at the intersection of internationalization and accessibility. So both these concepts rely on separation of concern. So, but adapting to a specific region through internationalization or ensuring accessibility in isolation is sometimes not sufficient. So, for instance, consider a application primarily designed for users in Japan trying to expand globally. So the needs of an elderly user in Japan would be very different from the needs of a blind user, for example, in Thai or in India. So the intersection can feel quite overwhelming or complicated, but this is where analyzing some of the key scenarios can become essential. So the user needs differ widely across demographics, and understanding how they intersect can drastically change the number and type of scenarios you need to consider. So this basically, I'm trying to visualize what intersection might look like when you think about accessibility and internationalization together for your services or applications. So the bottom right quadrant here is the intersection. it's very easy to get overwhelmed. Some of us might have products that might have billions of user scenarios, for example. So I work for Mercari, and I have close to 1,000 user scenarios which I need to take care of whenever I release a small feature, for instance, right? So when you are thinking about internationalization or accessibility for your services or applications, I would recommend you to start small. Think of some of the key scenarios for the application. So it could be something as simple as users are able to sign up to an application. Users are able to purchase a product on your application, for instance. And start from that so that you can ensure you are addressing the most impactful areas at first. Yeah, so that will be all from my side for today. Thank you for being an amazing audience, and I will take any questions if you may have.
So if I can ask the first question, so the implementation of internationalization, right? I would assume you will not, to render a page, you are not going to load up all the various permutations of every language. And you're going to do this real time, right? How do you make sure that the asynchronous, I'm going to assume again, is not server side, you are rendering this async from the client side. How do you make sure that this async implementation does not cause the UI to kind of, what's the word for it? Like it doesn't get re-rendered, right? Because I think in Google, when they do ranking, they actually are very particular about this.
Right, so great question. So there are a couple of ways to handle this. One is, as you may have noticed, applications redirect you based on the region you are in. For example, if you are in a Thai-based region, it could be /th in front of the application URL, or it could be /en. So that makes sure that non-related contents are not loaded when you're trying to access the website. So about the re-rendering part, it happens predominantly at the CDN layer. So when CDN is trying to build up your application, it tries to register a cookie, which can be utilized to make sure that only the related assets or files are loaded when the application page is rendered, and not unnecessarily files are re-rendered or loaded, for instance.
But you still get the re-rendering, right? Right, because your tags are all popping up async, right? As you load the translated, you send the text ID and then you get the translated text. So that sometimes changes the rendering of your boxes.
Right, so you can easily handle that by figuring out the loading priority of the page elements, for instance. So my responsibility when rendering a page is not to render everything in the first go, because that is very not performant for the user's network or data, for example. I would just like to render the first view. And that can be achieved by lazy loading the bottom part. So this, I believe, is a good technique to ensure that performance is kept for your application and the users. Yeah.
All right, thanks for sharing, Sahil. Let's give another round of applause.
Hello. Can I ask one more question? Yeah. So mainly I want to ask about the testing strategy to enforce this accessibility in the company level, because right now I'm working in design system, right? And in design system we're working with the smallest component, example input or button, text link. We're also working with the color contrast, hover state, interaction state, and also the icons as well need to be like RTR, RTL. But the problem is start when we deploy our framework for our customers and they try to compose these design systems, and not everyone like really aware of how to use the accessibility stuff, and then it start broke in the best level. So what is the best way like for everyone able to like basically enforce this accessibility or testing strategy for the company? Yeah.
So if I understand your question correctly, you want to make sure that the compliance level you want to follow, for instance. Yeah. So are you aware of WCAG guidelines? So the latest one is, I believe, 2.2 AA and AAA. So Mercari as a company tries to comply with WCAG 2.2 AA guidelines. And we have some CI/CD requirements and testing setup in our code bases. And we have also trained our designers and developers to follow those guidelines when developing and when designing, so that we make sure that entire product life cycle is aware of the accessibility requirements. So it happens from the design phase to the development and to the shipping phase. And for regressions, we have, as I said, we have set up CI/CD, and we inform users early when we break any kind of rule or any kind of guideline in our deployment and the release pipelines. Yeah.
Do you actually test it at the CI/CD level, or you just get the production randomly?
We test it during the development itself, because we want to inform as early as possible to the developers. So whenever they create a PR, we run the compliance rules and the guidelines on the PR itself. Yeah. Otherwise, we tend to always have some important priority stuff coming up, so these kind of things get deprioritized usually. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, you're presenting in Figma.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Ah.
Does it work?
Yeah. You just want to like
Stop to deliver extend.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. This should be correct.
Ah.
Yeah. You need
I'll try it. Okay.
to restart again.
Oh. Where? Oh.
Yeah. Push this. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you might want to full screen.
Full screen. Okay.
Alright.
Window.
The green one. Yeah. Okay. Right. Here is a presenter and the microphone also.
Let's start the microphone.
This one.
Oh.
The same thing. I will get another one.
Oh. Alright, our next speaker, Mariang Zhang, is a front-end engineer at a tech company. They are going to be sharing with us about how to enhance form usability through UI changes to help reduce complexity for developers.
Hello, my name is Virang, and today I'm giving a talk titled Enhancing Form Usability Through UI Changes, Reducing Complexity. I work as a prompt engineer at a company called Grand Clip in South Korea. And this photo was taken in Bangkok last year. Actually, I love Thailand so much that I visited 5 times just last year. And one day my dream is to work here in Bangkok. So that's why giving my first global conference talk in this city, both nerve-wracking and exciting for me. I'm very nervous. Okay, today I'll be talking about how we improve the user experience of a complex product registration form. To give you the conclusion first, we redesigned the form to help users easily understand what's needed and make selection quickly. This is more about the decision the product team can make to solve problems rather than a technical discussion, so feel free to take it lightly, please. Okay, the original product registration process was designed as a multi-step form spread across 4 pages. Each page had around 10 input fields, and selecting a field would open a bottom sheet for option or direct input. We also had validation check at each step, allowing user to proceed only after filling it or required field. This design had 2 main intentions. The first was to reduce cognitive load by letting users enter information step by step. The second was to keep the UI clean by organizing input across multiple pages. But however, in reality, this form had many issues, many problems. The first issue was that user couldn't see the entire process at a glance. First time users struggled to understand what information was required. Just from the first page, they didn't know what information they had to enter next. So sometimes they filled in detail too soon that weren't needed yet. The second issue was that the interaction was tiring for users. The automatic focus, shift, and bottom shifts disrupt the input flow instead of helping. Users had to go through repetitive actions, make the process frustrating. The third issue was that it was difficult to edit previous entered information. To modify an earlier entry, user had to go back multiple steps. It was also hard to remember where specific information was located. So the first issue was increased development complexity. Even though we use Jode for validation, handling required build and page transition was scattered across the codebase. Debugging took too much time, and fixing bugs became unnecessarily difficult. From user feedback, we identified 2 major pain points. The first was, even if I just want to edit one detail, I have to go through multiple pages. It's annoying. The second was, I wish I knew in advance what information I needed to prepare. So to solve these problems, we made several key improvements. First, we placed all input fields on a single page so that user could see everything at once. Second, we removed bottom sheet and displayed options directly for better visibility. Third, we provided default value to make input easier. Fourth, we use colors and icons to help user quickly recognize and select options. Finally, we simplified technical terms to make the form easier to understand. For example, let's look at selecting a color and gemstone. In the old phone, user had to tap a button, wait for a bottom seat to open, select a color, close the seat, wait for another bottom seat to open, and then select the gemstone. In the new phone, the process is much simpler. User can now choose a color, scroll a little, and pick a gemstone, making the process much easier. To make sure everything worked well, we also introduced component testing. Using ByTest, we added tests for individual input components, and the phone was at whole. This made it easier to automatically check the UI changes work correctly. While doing this, we also split components into smaller parts, improving the code structure. As a result, components become more reusable and easier to maintain. Testing important cases like required build validation and error messages also become much simpler, which help the entry team work faster. After this change, we saw great improvements. There were no more user complaints about product registration issues. The registration process became faster, and the number of registered products doubled. The code became simpler, making it easy to fix bugs and new features. It might seem like small changes, but it made a big difference for our team. Our team realized that if we can make everything perfect, it's better to focus on a simple and easy to use interface instead of making it look fancy. We made a product-driven decision to simplify the UI, as it was a more effective approach. This allowed us to achieve a better outcome while saving both time and resources. Of course, this process also helped us grow technically. Through this improvement, we introduced form testing as a new technical challenge, which allowed our team to take our skills to the next level. I'd like to end my talk by sharing another example of a similar decision we made. This case is about a pickup schedule selection form. There were two main issues with this form. First, the selection was restricted to days within 2 weeks. Because of this, year selection was only needed in December. From January to November, the year selection was completely unnecessary, yet the UI still displayed it. Second, even though the month and time selection had limited options, the roller style UI made it difficult for users to quickly see what choices were available. Technically, we could have solved gesture conflict by handling event propagation, but however, since there were multiple issues, we decided to improve the UI instead. We changed the interface to a grid style so that user could immediately see all available options. We also replaced the roller with buttons to prevent accidental UI closure and make the selection process clearer. So thank you for listening. Yeah.
We've got time for some quick questions. Any questions? All right. I've got a question. So you said you used Vitest. So was Vitest a new component that you added on top of the UI design as well, the redesign?
Am I design? Yes.
Okay. Vitest is very helpful, like the test-driven development.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. About the form validation part, use the microphone so online. Can you go back to the slide where it was close to form validation? I'm not sure it was really form validation. It was at the beginning, I think. It was about keeping the button disabled until the value was correct, something like that. It was earlier.
Here?
Earlier.
Huh?
Earlier.
Oh,
Yeah,
here.
here.
Here? Here.
Yeah, here. So on the right, on the list, we say when first entering, the register button is disabled, right? Yes. If the value is valid, the register button is enabled. If the value is invalid, the register button remains disabled. By invalid, you mean, what do we mean by invalid and valid here? Because like if it's invalid, how do I know why it's invalid? I don't know if my question is actually, might be just very basic. I don't know, I'm just asking.
Yes. Each step page has required field.
Yeah.
Because we have 4 step pages. So value is spelled is for required field.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question was more like, if I put a value that is wrong, do I wait for, submitting the form, or do I show directly that it's wrong? Or I just disable the button? I'm not sure. What's the best approach here?
I think show error message under the input field.
Before I try to submit, right?
Yes.
Directly, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
A lot of applause. You want to use your own machine?
Yes, I'm ready.
You have a USB clicker as well, so if you're standing.
Where is HDMI?
The talk earlier about WebAssembly was so interesting. Sorry? Like putting only Office into WebAssembly was really cool. Oh, it's duplicated, right?
That's what we need.
How do I pronounce your name? Vlad Bacterian, and
that's
Alex
correct.
McGee? Okay. Alright, next up we've got another talk by the Only Office team. Alex Mihiev, Head of Technical Support, and Vlad Bacterian, Marketing Manager, on using AI-powered tools to transform document workflows.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. We appreciate that you came here to listen to our session. In this session, we will speak about AI and its combination with Office software and the possibility how you can boost handling Office documents using artificial intelligence with OnlyOffice. After a thorough review, a key key insight has emerged from a feedback encountered by OnlyOffice. It turned out that whenever you use artificial intelligence in different industries of business like research, medicine, finance, marketing, sales, HR, etc., it's still connected to documents. And let me give you the first example. It is a research project for screening and early diagnosis of diseases, which results in a text document where a specialist from the medical field should collaborate and communicate based on the processed data. Another example is spreadsheets. Sorry for that formatting. An application which needs to automate RFP responses have to deal with XLSX spreadsheets. Also, if you want to generate educational content from presentation, the application should be able to create and edit PPTX files. And fillable PDF forms is a really valuable tool when you want to conduct large-scale researches and process data and answers from thousands of participants. And of course, vice versa. When you use documents and when you handle documents, you can boost these processes using artificial intelligence. The result is what we can say is that Office software and artificial intelligence makes a really good combination, giving you countless possibilities to improve and make your work with documents much faster. In OnlyOffice, you can implement artificial intelligence, bearing in mind key aspects such as security, functionality, flexibility, and usability. It stopped working. A couple of words about security, and we got a lot of questions about security concerns in OnlyOffice when you use artificial intelligence, and we want you to know that artificial intelligence is switched off by default in OnlyOffice, so it means that no third-party solutions, platforms use your data or track you down somehow. If you want to use artificial intelligence in OnlyOffice, first you should activate this feature and therefore give your consent. Flexibility is another benefit of AI in OnlyOffice. You can use pretty much any AI model from a lot of providers. These are the logos of providers already incorporated to OnlyOffice by default. And you can use AI models provided by large players like OpenAI, DeepSeek, Grok, Ollama, and also you can integrate your local AI model tailored to your preferences. And even more, you can apply different AI models for various tasks with your documents. For example, if you want to generate text using chatbot, translate text, and correct grammar and spelling mistakes with different AI models, you can have a separate AI model for each dedicated task. Another benefit is that everything can be configured on the server side, so your users will just open the document editor and start using AI right away. They don't need to configure anything on their side. Taking functionality into consideration, you can use AI in OnlyOffice to generate text, make text longer or shorter, correct grammar and spelling mistakes, summarize text, get word definitions, and translate text. Also, you can generate visual elements such as data tables, code, and images. Also, you can use chatbot to get information, generate answers to your question, and get precise information, or probably even use it for fun and entertainment. And of course, usability, last but not least. In OnlyOffice, you can use all AI features in the dedicated AI tab. No need to switch back and forth. Now I suggest that we'll speed up the installation process a little bit, and then my colleague Alex will show you how the artificial intelligence works in OnlyOffice. The installation and configuration is pretty straightforward. You go to the plugins tab of OnlyOffice editor, and then you install AI from plugin manager. This is what it looks like, the icon of AI. Then you should enable AI in the background plugins, because as I've already mentioned, it's switched off by default for security reasons. Then you access the appeared AI tab, click Settings, and Edit AI Models. Then you can select different AI models for many tasks like chatbot, text translation, summarization, etc. With these QR codes, you can find our solutions for web version and desktop application. And I will give you a little bit time to scan these QR codes if you're willing to. And then my colleague Alex will show you around AI and the real use case that that you can use AI with OnlyOffice.
Thank you, Vlad. So I'm not going to talk about a lot of different advantages of using AI in your document editing workflow, but I'm just going to show you two specific use cases. So that was a presentation in our desktop editor. Now you see it. So that product is available for any operating system. You can install it on your laptop, you can install it on your desktop, Mac, Linux, even Windows, so anything you want. Actually, what I'm going to show you, we just create a new document, and we have a plugin manager. So that's upmarket, where a lot of different plugins can be installed and used with OnlyOffice. So there are a lot of them. Here you can see that we have a lot of different plugins for OnlyOffice. And again, all of these plugins can be found in our App Store on our website. So we need AI plugin installed just in a few seconds. Now it should be as Vlad said, running in the background. And we have a new tab, AI. What is AI tab? So here we can set up AI model that will be used with our editor. Right now, I have Olama running on that machine, and that's a MacBook with M3 Pro Silicon, and so Llama 3.2 with, I think, 3 billion of parameters is running. So just to make sure that everything works with that local model, I'm going to disable my network. So you see, and now we are going to add a new model. Here you can see the list of all available models. I'm going to use Olama, as I said, so I'm going to use locally hosted model. Feel free to use GPT-4All if you'd like, but I would prefer using Olama. I think it's a little bit faster. And here you can see that there is already Llama 3.2 installed here. So with my local host on that port, this model can be used. So, as Vlad said, there are different features depending on your model. So some models allow you to work with images, some only with text. But of course, if you don't want to use your locally hosted model, you can use API key of any service like OpenAI. Here's it. Now you can see that we can select what features will perform this model, asking AI, like chatting with bot, so making summaries for text, translating text, and making analyzing of the text. So now we have disabled internet connection. Hello, FOSSASIA. Just go to context menu and you see that there are a lot of options. These options are supported by that model, and I'm going, for example, to translate the text to Spanish, yeah. Hola FOSSASIA, yeah. So again, everything depends on your model. The model is here on that laptop. I don't need internet access, I can work with that machine. So when I don't know, in the plane or somewhere else where I don't have internet access, I can work with my locally hosted AI model. So that's the first case. And maybe, yeah, no, I will go to the second one. So the second one is a little bit different, but again, that's just use case, how you can use AI in our product. You see that we have the interface. That product is called DocSpace. That product was created by OnlyOffice team. That's a beautiful solution for managing your document, for sharing your documents, for creating different rooms with different access rights. So you can share your document with specific access rights like commenting, form filling, or anything else with your teammates. And now I'm going to show you how AI can be used right here. Just imagine that you have tons of spreadsheets in different directories. So everyone works with spreadsheets. And you need to find some information, and you don't know where this information, in what file it is stored. You can use AI model to find, so don't forget to enable network. You can find the information using OnlyOffice product. How that looks like. You can open the chart. That's just example, that's just freshly installed product with just 2 files. With this spreadsheet, here is it. That's a pretty old file we have created really in 2016, yeah, but I still use it. I love using that file. So actually the product is really old. So we do know everything about document editing. We are working on that. And that file is really old, yeah. So I would like to show you how you can get the information from that file. I'm chatting with AI assistant right now. So now I'm going to use a beautiful feature supported by Mac operating system. Usually I do not use it. How many medals won China? That's really interesting. So it is connected to some AI model, and it may be a little bit slow right now. You see that we have got an answer. Just check. China, China. Here's it. 70 medals. You see that we do not need to open the document. We can work with these documents without opening them. Just use your chatbot and get the information from the spreadsheets which are stored in your OnlyOffice solution. So that's exactly how that works. And these are just two use cases how AI can be used when working with your documents. Actually, that's all we wanted to show you, and thank you a lot. We have a booth if you'd like to see anything about OnlyOffice. So you're welcome, we can show you, we can arrange a demo with you, so if you need it. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Any questions about AI and OnlyOffice?
Can you guys work with PDF files?
Yes. We added a PDF editor like almost a year ago. It's our youngest editor. We can open, create, and edit PDF files. Yes.
Yes, now you don't need to use expensive products. You can use free OnlyOffice Desktop to edit your PDF files.
Just now for the voice transcription, what were you using to enter the voice question? Like what AI model was that, or was that local?
Again?
No, you were asking the question about how many medals did China win by using the voice. Like you entered it with your voice, right? Was that OnlyOffice AI transcription, or?
No, that was just built-in operating system, yeah. Of course, we have speech-to-text and text-to-speech in OnlyOffice. Yeah, all these plugins can be installed and used if you don't have it in your MacBook, or any other laptop, yeah.
Sorry, I have a question that can I add some Python code, maybe customize about data in my sheet on OnlyOffice, in Excel?
Yes, of course. Exactly what's happening under the hood. So we can render the file. We have document builder that is built into the document editing software, and you can fill any field that persists in the document. So you can fill any cell in your spreadsheet. Everything is possible, yes.
Oh wow, impressive, thank you.
Any more questions? If not, lunch is available. Don't quote me on that. It should be available. I've not gone out yet, but it should be available. So we'll see you back at 1:30 for the next talk. All right, let's give another hand for the speakers.
Thank you. Thank you.